Hello, I'm Tom Feldman, and welcome to this lesson on the guitar of Robert Johnson. It's a great honor for me to be here teaching this lesson, and we have got a number of songs to work through. Out of the 29 titles that Robert Johnson recorded from 1936 into 1937, 15 were done out of standard tuning and 14 were done out of an open tuning. We're going to start off with the standard tuning songs, and of the 15 out of standard, 8 of them were done out of A position. So we're going to begin with A position and move through pretty much every aspect of Robert's playing out of A position. We're going to use Kind-Hearted Woman as our building blocks because all of the other songs that he did out of A position really revolve around that same idea. And of course there's variations from song to song which we'll get through as well. So before we get into tune and get started on those A position songs, I want to mention a few things. One, typically in a lesson like this, we're able to offer or include the original recordings by the artists that we're covering, but due to licensing fees, we're not able to do that with Robert Johnson's music. So you will need to have some sort of CD release or album download that has all the songs that we're going to be covering throughout the lesson. And it is very, very important that you be playing along with the original recordings after you've learned the song in the lesson. This lesson isn't meant to sidestep the original recordings. It's meant to equip you with the tools needed to be able to play along with what was being played. So I can't recommend strongly enough how important it is to be playing with Robert Johnson and his recordings. I'm not Robert Johnson. I can't play exactly like Robert Johnson. So please take that extra step and play along with the original recordings. The second thing is I'm going to be using a thumb pick pretty much throughout the whole DVD. There are going to be songs where I'm not going to be using a thumb pick and possibly some finger picks as well. There's really nothing about Robert Johnson's music that requires any sort of finger picks or thumb picks. So whatever is comfortable for you, please do. There's plenty of great players that use no thumb pick and bare fingers that play Robert Johnson's music, as well as many great players that use thumb and finger picks to play Robert Johnson's music. So again, there's no one or the other, and for me, it's just personal preference, and that's how I play Robert Johnson's music. But there's nothing that's being done with a thumb pick that can't be done without a thumb pick. So again, use what's the most comfortable for you. There is tablature included with the lesson. It is a PDF file on the disc. For those of you who have the DVD, and for those of you who have the downloaded version, you can see how to access that PDF from the main menu area. And I think that's about it. So let's get into tune and get underway. Again, we're going to be starting off in standard tuning. So here is your low E. Your A. D, G, B, and E. All right, well, again, as I said, we're going to start off with Kind-Hearted Woman, and please do start there if you're working through the A position songs, because we're going to break that song down and cover things that we really don't need to go over in much detail moving beyond that piece. So here is Kind-Hearted Woman. For me, I got a kind-hearted woman. Is anything in this world for me? But them evil-hearted women will not let me be. I love my baby. My baby don't love me. Well, I do love my baby. love don't mean a thing, and it breaks my heart. You call Mr. So-and-so's name. I got a kind of woman, studies evil all the time. I got a kind of woman, studies evil all the time. Well, you're gonna have to kill me just to get her off of my mind. All right, well, that was Kind-Hearted Woman, and we are going to basically go through that song verse by verse, and once we do that, you can pretty much go through songs like Phonograph Blues, 3220 Blues, Dead Shrimp Blues, and the other A-position songs at a really quick pace because they're all following this idea. The Kind-Hearted Woman song, really, he got a lot of use out of this chord progression. We're going to start off with the intro, and every one of those A-position songs has this style of intro. Kind-Hearted Woman is a little bit different in that it adds an extra string as far as our left hand or our finger, what we're fingering. So what we're going to be doing is taking this D7 shape chord up to the 9th fret, and a lot of times you'll see it done like this, but for our purposes we're going to be changing our fingering a little bit, using our ring finger for the 3rd string of the 9th fret, pinky for the 1st string of the 9th fret, middle finger for the 2nd string of the 8th fret, and finally 1st finger on that 4th string of the 7th fret. Now all of the other songs do this, but they do not use that 4th string, so you can do the fingering in a different way. But for here, that's what it's going to look like, and he's going to go from the 9th fret to the 8th fret to the 7th fret into a long A. And this long A here, for those of you who may be new to this chord, all you're doing is barring 4, 3, 2, and 1 on the 2nd fret, adding that 1st string on the 5th fret, and that's what's called the long A. So let's go back up and look at the right hand for the strumming that he's going to be doing, because he's going to be brushing up, and he is going to be reaching up to that 4th string, but it's very faint. When you listen to the recording, you can just barely hear it, and it's not that A string that he's hitting. That's an A note, but he's not hitting the A string. So it's going to be a brush up, and that 4th string is going to, stay at the 7th fret when you're doing that. So we're from the 9th to the 8th. Your 1st finger is staying exactly where it is on that 7th fret. And when we move down to the 7th fret, that finger is going to come off. So brush, brush, and then he's going to go into a picking pattern. So you've got the brushes, brush, pick, and that's just doing 1, 2, 3, 1 to our long A. And that's pretty much the intro there. And we've got our walk down. So basically we're going from our long A into an E7, and the way that he's going to do that is from his 5th fret is where he's going to start off. So we've got this long A, and then we're going to reach over to do the bass run, and the bass is going to go 5, 4, 3, but we're also going to be pinching that 1st string as well. So we got a thumb and a finger pinch. So that looks like this with your right hand. It's going to go. So a lot of different techniques going on with the brushing and the individual picking. And what I'm doing when I'm doing this bass run is that I'm actually barring strings 1 and 2 at the 5th fret. So I can use that 2nd string if I want to. So it looks like that. You can just do the 1st string like that, but I like to bar that 2nd string because there are in places where you hear him hit that, where he's hitting that 2nd string. So I just like to have it there, and it's just kind of I've gotten used to doing that, and I always just do that with that rundown. So we've got the 5, 4. When we get to the 3rd fret, we're going to do this little run there, little lick. It's going to be a pull off from the 3rd to the 2nd to open. So almost like an A7 type deal there, where it's 3 to open to E7. And this E7 that I'm doing, as I'm sure you notice, I'm not using that 4th string, which traditionally you would have it, you know, with that 4th string as well. But Robert Johnson never really goes that far, and so I've always just gotten used to not including that string, and so I leave it off, but you can feel free to add that if you would like. So that's the intro. Into our first verse, and we're going up to the 5th fret, and this is going to be our A. It's going to be strings 4 and 2 on the 5th fret, and then our 3rd string is going to be 1 fret above at the 6th fret. And our bass with our right hand is really what's going to be holding down the fort, because we're going to be pulsing on that 5th string, but we're also going to be hitting that 4th string. And he does this for all of his songs. I'm slightly palm muting that string so it's not wide open like that. I'm resting my hand slightly on the strings so I'm deadening it. And in addition to that, on the left hand, I'm pulsing specifically with that 4th string to get that effect. So work with that for a while and get comfortable doing that, and then the verse is going to go, got a kind on woman, there's anything in this world for me. So he's just going 1 fret down, 1 fret back to his A. And then he's going to add his 1st string on that 5th fret when he goes down to his 4th. So it goes. And that's very simply just adding that 1st string on the 5th fret. That's all that is. To his got a kind-hearted woman, 2nd line of the verse. Is anything in this world for me? So all this is basically, if you were doing a traditional D7, if you did not have that 1st string, you'd be using that 2nd string, 1st fret, 3rd string, 2nd fret, and then we're going to add our thumb on the bass of that 6th string, 2nd fret. And he's really just playing string 6 and 3 and 2, but he's still keeping that really heavy bass. So if you're going to be hitting that 5th string, that's okay as well, because again, we're palm muting, so we're reducing it to more of a rhythm than actually the note itself. And if this thumb, if that's proving to be a little bit too difficult right now, there's another way to go about playing this chord, and that's by taking your middle finger, which is at the 3rd string, and actually moving that up to the 6th string and using your ring finger for that 3rd string instead. I've seen a lot of people do this as well. And that's fine to do for now, but I think it is definitely to your advantage to get used to using your thumb there, not only for Robert Johnson and other songs moving forward, but just for other songs in general. So that's the second line of the verse. Kind of a woman, is anything in this world for me? Back up to your A. It's going to do the same thing I did for the first line. To our E7. Back to that D. Into our walk down. And E7. So here the walk down is going to go all the way from 5 to 2. And that's verse 1. So verse 2, we're going to be sliding all the way back up to that 9th fret, just like we did in the intro. I love my baby. My baby don't love me. And just like when we were on that A, we're just going 1 fret down, 1 fret up. Well, I love my baby, same as verse 1. Well, don't love me. And everything else is the same as verse 1. Well, I love that honey, just can't stand to leave with me. 3rd verse, with a hey, but the one thing makes Mr. Johnson drink. Well, now, honey, I begin to think. So all that is going back to that A and just going down 1 fret and back up. Now what I'm doing here with my right hand is I'm actually doing more of a pinch to control that sound, where you can listen on the recording where he does keep it very controlled. It's not a real strum that he lets really ring out too long, so it's got it. Well, ain't the one thing makes Mr. Johnson drink. Well, now, honey, I begin to think. And whether he, how he plays that with his fingerings, I obviously can't say, but that's just how I go about doing it. And then we go up to his falsetto part where he's going to do this little run on the 3rd string. Oh, baby, your love don't mean a thing. So our 5th string is still holding down the 4th on that bass. We're going to go 9th fret, 7th fret, and 5th fret. So 9th is just the 3rd string. 7th fret is the 3rd and 1st string. 5th fret is the 3rd and 1st string, but we're going to bend up on that 3rd by the time we get back to the 5th. So we got, oh baby, love don't mean a thing. So for the love don't mean a thing, it's back to that single string. 9, 7, 5. To our E7, and it breaks my heart. You call Mr. So-and-so's name. Here's the guitar break coming up. So again, just going back up like we did for the 2nd verse. And then he's going to go down. Again, still 9, 7, and 5 for the frets. Back up to 9. So that's a little bit tricky because he's going to add the 10th fret of the 2nd string and then the 8th fret of the 1st string when he goes down to a 7th fret. So at the 9th fret, we're adding that 10th fret of the 2nd string. At the 7th fret, we're adding the 8th fret of the 1st string. And then just goes back to what he was doing. Heading into our final verse. It starts out the same. Got a kind of a woman is the first verse. Where studies evil all the time. And now we got this. which of course is very, very famous. And the one thing I want to point out is that he only uses that fill one time throughout the entirety of the song. I know that I tend to see people do that for every verse, and I think that it is important to note that he did not do that every verse. He only did it once. He used it very sparingly. So, and how we're going to do that is going 5, 3, or sorry, 5, 4, 3 into an A7. And I am barring, just like I would for the long A. You don't really need to do that if you be very careful to not hit any other strings besides your 5th and your 1st. You could go just with your 1st finger. But if you hit any other strings, it wrecks it. So I bar just to cover my bases. If I do slip with my thumb pick and hit another string, you're covered. So that's that first line of the verse. Kind-hearted woman says anything's worth for me. Here's the other one. Into our E7. So that's going to start off with a long A, go into an A7, and then it's going to be, so 1st string, 3rd fret, open, 1st string, to the 2nd fret of that 2nd string, kind of just going back to that A. Then we've got this bass run going from the 4th fret of the 5th string into our E7. Sorry. To our end. So that ending is 5, 4, 3, E7, open 1st string, 2nd fret of that 1st string, back up to A7. And that is the entirety of Kind-Hearted Woman. And I know, like I said to begin with, we were really going to break down this song because Phonograph Blues pretty much is almost identical to this song. It doesn't have the guitar break, but it is doing all the same things. Dead Shrimp Blues is pretty much identical to this song. 3220 has a different tempo, but it's doing a lot of the same ideas. So we're going to be able to move through those songs at a much quicker pace now that we spent the time to really dissect this piece. So let's go to the split screen, and I'm going to play it slowly, and we'll go through it together. 1, 2, 3, 4. guitar break. I got a kind of woman, studies evil all the time. Kind of woman, studies evil all the time. All right, now we're going to just jump right into the explanation of phonograph blues, because really phonograph blues is kind of a reversal of Kind-Hearted Woman. The intro is different and unique to itself, which we will go over, but the last verse of Kind-Hearted Woman is the first verse of phonograph blues, and then it pretty much kind of follows suit with Kind-Hearted Woman. So there's real no need to go over a lengthy, in-depth, detailed discussion about phonograph blues, but the intro is very, very cool, and it is what I led the intro of the video to. That performance was phonograph blues. So the intro is going to be happening at the same place as was Kind-Hearted Woman, but we're going to go which I think is very cool. So we've got this D7 shape chord up at the 9th fret, just like we did with Kind-Hearted Woman, but then we're going to add that second string on the 10th fret, much like we did with the guitar break of Kind-Hearted Woman in for the intro. So it's 3, 3, strings 3, 1, and that second string is that 10th fret. So then down to that 8th fret, and then we're going to go to our 5th fret and bend up and open. And that lead into that long A is that second string on that 3rd fret. And then we walk down to our E7. And again, that's much like Kind-Hearted Woman. We've got that pull off 3, 2, open into our E7. And then we're into our first verse, which again is the same as the last verse of Kind-Hearted Woman. And really, there's not a whole lot of other differences. The one that I can think of is the last 2 verses. He's going to go up to his 9th fret, which it's going to be the same form as the second verse of Kind-Hearted Woman. So it's going to go, it's going to slide up. So I believe I'm going to lose my mind. Well, I'm going to go crazy. Yes, and I believe I'll lose my mind. And we'll just treat this as the ending. Why don't you bring your clothes back home and try your daddy one more time? And much the same ending as Kind-Hearted Woman. So let's go to the split screen, and what we're going to do in the split screen is go over that intro. I'm going to do the first verse and 1 or 2 other verses as well for the split screen. So here is the split screen for Phonograph Blues. 1, 2, 3, 4. my winding chain. Well, now she got a phonograph, broke my winding chain. And you taking my loving, give it to some other man. Played it on the sofa now, played it side of the wall. Needles got rusted, will not play it all. Well, we played it on the sofa now, well, we played it side the wall. Yeah, the needle got rusted, will not play it all. One more verse. Well, I'm gonna go crazy, believe I lose my mind. Well, I'm gonna go crazy, believe I lose my mind. Why don't you bring your clothes back home and try your daddy one more time? Call my baby man, she don't know. Cover my baby man and she don't come. With the doctors in hospital, she won't help me now. It's unruly things she don't want to do. Well, she gets unruly things she don't want to do. Well, I tell you now, honey, I'm gonna cut her half in two. Oh, I just can't get my rest. Teddy, just can't get my rest. Put a 220 up and down my breast. Said, oh, where did you stay last night? Hey, where did you stay last night? 'Cause it didn't come home till the sun was shining bright. All right, well, that was 3220 Blues, and really, as far as our left hand is concerned, doing a lot of things that we've already done with Kind-Hearted Woman, and then, of course, with Phonograph Blues, but, of course, we've got a different tempo going on here, and the intro was a little different as well. So we're still doing the same positions, meaning that we're up at that 9th fret with that D7 chord shape. 8, 7, into our long A. And our bass has changed, where with Kind-Hearted Woman, Phonograph Blues, and the other songs that follow suit to that, the bass has kind of had more of a... This one is just right on the beat, and it's just going to stay steady the whole time. So with that thumb, you're just going to lock it in on that 5th string, and that's pretty much where you're going to stay when we're doing that intro, as well as many other places. So again, the intro. The difference mainly with this one and the intro, especially with the walk down, is we're walking all the way down to the 2nd fret like we would for a traditional verse into our E7, rather than doing that pull off that we did with Kind-Hearted Woman and Phonograph Blues. So we've got that. And then we're just going back up to that A like we would. Call for my baby man and she don't come. And doing that 5, 4, 3 on that first string. One thing that I think is interesting is he leads into that with this open first string and then hitting that second string. So he's got that call for my baby man and she don't come. So that's just strings 2 and 1. When I call for my baby and she don't come. Now we're going to go to our A. Rather than going back up here, we're just going to go to here because we're going to go. And that's just 5th fret, 2nd or 3rd fret. So it's basically long A to an A7 to our E7 and to the end. Second line of the verse is going to happen up here at the 9th fret, which he gets on really don't want to do. Same deal, gets on really things she don't want to do. Now we're going to go back to that A that we did for the verse. So it's going to go here. So we're back into the A, and then we're back over here as well. So we're kind of going from A, 2 different A positions. And they're going to go. So that's 5th, 3rd, back to the 5th, 4, 3, back to the 5th. E7, back home. And then it goes back to that A. So really every verse is just kind of, I call it an A-B-A-B because there's that one form of the verse, which is the first verse, and then the second form of the verse, which is the second verse. And he's just going to go back and forth from those throughout all the verses. And of course with the performance, I did not perform all of the verses. There's quite a few verses to this song. I just did 4 or 5 of them. And the changes that happen, verses 1 through 3, all do that kind of fill. But then after that, he's going to change things. So he'll go. So he's going to do that same 5th fret to the 3rd fret, so A to A7. And then he's going to do that pull-off that we learned for the intro of Kind-Hearted Woman, Phonograph Blues, which is just 3rd fret, 2nd fret on that first string, into his D or into his E7. So that's kind of standard moving forward. Change, I forget what number verse that is because again there's so many verses to this song, but eventually he's going to get to this area where he's going to change his picking pattern. And the way that I'm doing that, as far as our left hand, we're still just doing 9th fret, 8th fret, 9th fret, but I'm with strings 3, 2, and 1, and I'm just pinching that. And again, I can't say that that's what he did, but that's just how I go about controlling that. So you'll be like, hey, where did you stay last night? Hey, where did you stay last night? So that's one variation. The other variation, which is very similar to that one, and I think it's the last verse of the song, he's going to do that sort of thing, which is going to go. And what I'm doing there is pinching and strumming down. And those are really the only variations in the song. I want to mention one more thing before we go to the split screen. There is one more that I remembered, which happens in the 3rd verse. Where he says, So this is the third verse. That is the variation. So we're going to go to our A and then back to an E and do kind of a hammer on that third string, first fret, to our E7. And the ending of the song is just going to go, so 5, 4, 3, E7 to our A7. I know that's kind of a pretty quick run through on this song, but once we slow it down on the split screen, it'll all come together quite nicely. So here's the split screen of 3220 Blues. Get a call from my baby, and she don't come. My baby, and she don't come. Doctors and house springs, she won't have none. She gets unruly, things she don't want to do. I just can't get my rest. Just can't get my rest. All right, well now let's take a look at some variations. We'll call this A blues variations, as many of the other songs, we did Kind Hearted Woman, Phonograph Blues, 3220. Well, now there's Dead Shrimp Blues, Me and the Devil Blues, Little Queen of Spades, and Honeymoon Blues. And though they pretty much stick to what's we've already covered, there are some very cool variations to them. And the first one I want to look at is Dead Shrimp Blues. And what I'm going to do is the intro and the second verse, because that's where the variation comes in. So that intro, pretty much doing what we've already seen. To our long A, all the way down to that second fret, so 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd to E7. Now again, this is the second verse. Well, I got this dream, baby. Someone's been fishing in my pond. And again, that's nothing new there, but here's where the variation comes in. I got dead shrimp, baby. So that little lick is the variation, which he does do on take 2 of Kind-Hearted Woman. The last verse of that take 2 has that lick in it, but for Dead Shrimp Blues, it comes in on the second verse, the second line of the second verse. So when we're going into our D here, he's going to go from here all the way up. So we're planted on the 5th fret of that first string, stretching up to that 8th fret and bending up. Hammer on and a pull off on that 7th fret. And then to that second string of that 7th fret. And then it's just 8, 5, open back to A. And the other thing about this is if you look at Me and the Devil Blues, the entire song is based out of the second line of the verse here. So this progression is Me and the Devil Blues. That whole second verse, if you played that verse for every verse, you'd have Me and the Devil Blues. But he does do something in a similar vein to this lick. But he's just going to go to the 8th fret, and it's "Oh, and the devil is walking side by side. Well, me and the devil was walking side by side." So he's just going to be at that 8th fret, bending up on that first string. Was walking side by to the 5th fret of that first string, and back to that A. So that's a kind of a sneak peek into Me and the Devil Blues. But again, that lick for Dead Shrimp Blues, and then we'll just call that, pretend that's the end of the song. So let's go to the split screen, and I think that's worth doing a split screen on for that lick right there. And I'll go again, just do the intro, that verse, and then we'll move on to the next A blues variation. I got dead shrimp. Someone's been fishing in my pond. I got dead shrimp in. All right, the next variation that I'd like to do is based out of Little Queen of Spades, and that is a very, very cool song. The intro is pretty standard fare for what we've already been through, but the verses are what we're going to be looking at. So just the intro. That's the first part there. So we've got little queen of spades, man will not let her be. So this is going 9th, 8th, 7th, and then we're going to this A here, which is barring strings 1 and 2 on the 5th fret, adding that 3rd string on the 6th fret, and then we're going to be walking back up. So little queen of spades, man will not let her be. Where's the little queen of spades? When the man will not let her be. And here's where we get that bass that's going to go from open to 1 and 2. I know a lot of people use that bass for Kind-Hearted Woman, where you get that. But he didn't do that in Kind-Hearted Woman. In Kind-Hearted Woman, he just did it open, so he'd be going away. So there's variations to that. So you've got that open, you got with Little Queen of Spades, where we're going from 1 to 2. And then with Phonograph Blues, he's going to go to his 3rd fret 5th string, which we went through Phonograph Blues, but that bass is going to sound like that. So everything's coming off, the thumb off, just that 3rd fret 5th string. So that's just a little bass variations that he does for all the different songs. But for Little Queen of Spades, the man will not let her be. That's a very cool little run. He's going to start off as we always would with that A, and then we're going to go down again like we typically would. He's going to go. So it's 1st string, 5th fret, open on that 1st string, going to that 3rd fret 2nd string, or sorry, yeah, 3rd fret 2nd string, 2nd fret 2nd string to our long A. Then we've got this bass on the 4th fret of the 5th string. And then that pull off 3rd fret, 2nd fret, pull off to E7. And then we just finish off like we always would. Now that's the first verse. The first verse and the last, it's a 4th verse song. 1st verse and 4th verse are that. That's what they do. The 2nd verse and the 3rd verse are the same. So real quick to the 2nd verse. Gonna get me a gambling woman. It's the last thing that I do. Get me a gambling woman. It's the last thing that I do. Here's the variation. So we've kind of seen that before, but he's doing a little bit different. We saw that with, he did that in Kind-Hearted Woman. He did it in 3220 as well, and I think in Phonograph Blues. But in those songs, he would go to the bass, to his E7, where this, he does not go to his bass. That would be typically what we have seen him do, but now he's going to go. So he's going to go back to that 3rd fret 1st string. So 5th fret 1st string, 3rd fret 1st string, open, 2nd fret 2nd string, back to that A7 shape. E7, and then we'll just call it done. And before we go to a split screen on that, because I think it's worth doing, the other variation that I'm just going to throw in along with this one is in Honeymoon Blues, because the verse that he does in Honeymoon Blues, that's a song that he's kind of mixing in pretty much all the different variations from many different songs, so every verse is a little bit different, but there's 2 verses that he does this A down the staff, as Son House called it, and he does it like this in Honeymoon Blues. One day I will return, the marriage license in my hand. Someday I will return. So that's starting off at the 9th fret. One day I will return. 8, the marriage license in my hand. So just like with Little Queen of Spades, but he's singing over it this time. When we get down to this A, back up. So from the 9th, 7th, back to that A. Very neat. Someday I will return with a marriage license in my hand. And we learned that with 3220 blues, that E to A. So we got A, E, A. And in Honeymoon Blues, the other way that he does this A down the staff is, one day I will return, marriage license in my hand. So that's the same. And he's going to hold it. And then go back up to that 9th fret. One day I will return, marriage license in my hand. One day I will return. Everything else is the same. So what I want to do is just go to a split screen for the variations on Little Queen of Spades and let you play around with Honeymoon Blues on your own. So here is a split screen with Little Queen of Spades. Time she makes a spread, a cold chill just runs all over me. Gonna give me a gallon woman, it's the last thing that I do. Give me a gallon woman, last thing that I do. Don't want a woman I gotta give all my money to. One more verse. She says I'm the king, my darling, you is the queen. Darling, you is the queen. Let's put our heads together and make our money green. Steady rolling man, roll more than a day. I'm a steady rolling man, roll more than a day. Well, I tell you, sweet woman, ain't got no woman to roll this way. Well, I'm a hard-working man, been for many long years, I know. Hard-working man, been for many long years, I know. And you can't give your sweet woman everything she wants inside. Yeah, you can't give your sweet woman everything she wants at one time. Where's she gonna be spending your money? Some other man all on her mind. All right, that was I'm a Steady Rollin' Man, which is going to be our last song out of A position and really kind of breaks free from what he was doing with all of the other A position songs. The intro still holding true to what we've seen. Slightly different. We're starting off with that 9th fret. When we get down to our 8th fret, we're going to add our 2nd string up at that 9th fret. And when we get down to our 7th fret, we're going to be on that 2nd string 8th fret and bend up. So it's going to go into our long A. And then when we're in our long A, we're going to be doing that bass that we've pretty much always done. But he's going to stop. He's going to stumble on the 4th fret, which I don't know if that was on purpose or a mistake, but what he's going to do is, so it's 5th, 4th, 4th, and then that pull off from 3-2 to open and E7. So all together that's and then we're into it. We're going to be based out of this long A, so you're kind of just going to lock it in here. And again, with that long A, all I'm doing is barring strings 4 to 1 on that 2nd fret, adding my pinky up at the 5th fret on that 1st string. And what we're going to be doing is so our thumb is still, on our right hand here, is just plugging away at that 5th string. But even when we get down to this 4th string, we're still starting at that 5th string. So everything is starting with that 5th string. So now looking back at the left hand for that, again, keeping in mind that everything is still beginning with that 5th string for the bass, we've got and all we're doing there is going to the 4th fret of that 4th string, like we'd be doing a shuffle, and we're going to be going from 3 to 4 on the 5th string. And then that's an A7. So I'm a steady rolling man, been for many long years, I know. Well, I'm a steady rolling man. So now we're into this chord shape here, which is basically a C chord shape. If you do the C chord and slid it up to your 5th fret, add that 5th fret of the 1st string, he's going to start off that way. So it's going to slide up to there, but then he's going to pull off that 3rd finger. So that 5th string, that A, is going to still be open. So steady rolling man, been for many long years, I know, back to his A. And really all that is messing around with this A to A7 shape that we pretty much learned through many of the different songs, but it's going to be long A, and we've already learned that. carrying that C shape up to the 7th fret. And here, he does, if I remember correctly, he does keep on that 5th string. No, wait, he doesn't. He slides up with the 5th string, but then moves to the 6th string of that 7th fret. Back down to the 5th, open up, and back home. And then it's all going to just start over again. And you know, there's slight variations, but we'll hit those in the split screen. And the ending is a pretty typical Robert Johnson ending out of A position. No, it's not. I'm sorry. So we're going to go from our A to A7 to E7, go from that 2nd fret 1st string up to our long A, and back home, which again with the split screen I'll clear that up quite nicely. So let's head to the split screen for I'm a Steady Rollin' Man. The man that rolls from icicles hanging from the trees. I'm the man that rolls from icicles hanging from the trees. When you hear me howling, way down on my bending knee. I'm a working man. I've been for many long years, I know. I'm a working man. Many long years, I know. Sweet woman, everything she wants in one time. Where she's gonna spend your money, assemble the man all on mine. To Atlanta, California. your business straight. Hey, baby, don't you want to go back to the land of California, my sweet home, Chicago? Going to California, yeah, I'm on my way. Say now, honey, you're gonna need my help someday. Hey, baby, don't you want to go back to the land of California, sweet home, Chicago? All right, that was Sweet Home Chicago and Out of E Position. The other song that he recorded out of E Position was When You've Got a Good Friend. And the two of them really, apart from the intros, are pretty much the same song. So we're going to focus in on Sweet Home Chicago, but I'm also going to cover the variation intro for When You've Got a Good Friend. So at the intro, we're going to be up at the 12th fret, and we're going to be starting off basically barring strings 1 and 2 at the 12th, and he doesn't hit that the 4th string and go down like you would think. I don't know if it's was on purpose or not, but he starts off with the 1st and 2nd strings, and it could be one of those things that just the audio quality or the audio quality of the recording that I was listening to. You know, some of those early records, some things get lost and it's faint. So what the recording is so it's strings 2 and 1 on the 12th, and then he's going to start with the bass on the 11th fret. And then when he gets to his 9th fret on the bass, he's going to basically do an A7 shape, which is a E7 chord, but A7 shape up at the 9th fret, and all that is barring strings 4 through 1 on the 9th fret, adding that 1st string on the 10th fret. Typically, you would think that the intro would go, but again, starting that bass on the 11th fret, it's a little bit unusual. And then we've got this chord here, which what we're basically doing is stacking our fingers on the 2nd fret, string 6, 5, and 3 on the 2nd fret. The 4th string is 1 fret behind. And that is the intro for Sweet Home Chicago. The intro for When You've Got a Good Friend is going to basically follow that same pattern at the 12th fret, but do it in a little different way, and that's like this. So still doing that bass run, but starting at the 12th fret. Back up to 12. When he gets to his 10th fret, he's going to go down to A7 and into our chord there. So those are the differences between Sweet Home Chicago and When You Got a Good Friend. The similarities really are just in what you're singing over, and so after we get into the verse, what we're doing is on the 5th string, frets 2 to 4, and the bass is happening on the 6th string. So looking at the thumb, and you're dragging it down a little bit. You're not just, you know, hitting it pretty hard. You're dragging it slightly. And then when you get down to the 4th string, so it's the 5th string, down to the 4th string, but but again, that bass is on the 5th string. So the bass always starts 1 string up. And what I'm also doing is palm muting slightly, just laying my hand slightly on the strings to dampen or deaden the sound of the string. So it's not. I'm controlling it a little bit. So looking at the left hand again, I got 4th fret to the first line of the verse. Oh, baby, don't you wanna go? So on the 4th string, 2nd fret, 4th fret, 5th fret, 4th fret, back home. Don't you wanna go? And that is 3rd string open and 1st string open when he's doing his bass. So on the right hand, that looks like this. Back to the land of California. Now we're into our B7 chord here, which again, we're just stacking our fingers 6, 5, 3 on the 2nd fret and that 4th string on the 1st fret. And then up. So there, we're going from here, well, sweet home, is up to the 7th fret 1st string, 8th fret 2nd string, bending up. And that's how he's going to finish it. So bending up, sweet home, Chicago. So open string, 2nd fret, 2nd string, open. And then finishing it off with this, we're going to be doing 1 fret apart from each other, so starting off at the 4th fret on that 3rd string and the 3rd fret of that 2nd string going down. When he gets to his 2nd fret, it's just going to be that 3rd string. And then it starts all over again. And there's really no change. Back to the land of California, sweet home, Chicago. And then the way we're going to end the song is sliding all the way up to our 9th fret and our pinky on the 12th fret. So we're doing basically a long A chord shape of the E chord, and then we're going to walk down. And that's going to go 12, 11, 10, and then slide up on that 5th string to the 10th or the 11th fret, and then walk down the strings to that A7 chord shape, which is an E7 chord. One thing I want to talk about real quickly is why I'm using the fingers that I'm using when I'm doing this. Instead of just laying my fingers across and doing that, instead of doing, you would do just stretch your finger, but the reason why I'm using my one middle finger really and actually making that big movement is because I want that 3rd string to be open. If I'm laying it down, it's a little bit, I have to make a little bit of a finger adjustment to get that 3rd string open, where if I just use my one finger, it's already open and it just simplifies things a little bit. And if you look at people like Robert Lockwood, he's actually doing something very similar to that, and so that's kind of where I got that idea from, to do it like that rather than stretching my finger like you maybe traditionally would. So that is Sweet Home Chicago. Let's go to the split screen and go through it together. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, tell you, honey, you need my help someday. Yeah. Baby, don't you wanna go back to the land of California, sweet old Chicago. Well, I found her to the station, suitcase in my hand. Well, I found her to the station, suitcase in my hand. And it's hard to tell, it's hard to tell, when all your love is in vain. Yeah, the train pulled up to the station, and I looked her in the eye. Well, I pulled the train up the station, I looked her in the eye. And I felt so lonesome, lonesome, I could not help but cry on my lover's day. Well, the train, it left the station. Well, so I'm behind. Yeah, the train left the station. Yeah, two lights on behind. Well, the blue light was my blues, and the red light was my mind. Oh, man. Well, that was Love in Vain Blues, and we are in G position now, and this is a very, very nice song, very fun to play. The intro is a bit wild, though. What we're going to be doing is starting up at the 10th and 12th frets, so 10th fret with that first string, 12th fret with that second string, and we're going to go from 10th to 12th, 9th to 11th, 8th to 10th, and here's where things kind of differ a little bit, is that you could either carry it down to the 7th and 8th, but I think he's going down to his 3rd fret with his first string, because then he goes into his bass walk down. So that's what I'm going to be doing, but you could make a case for it landing there as well. But as far as how to play it with our right hand, again, it's pretty wild. It's going to go. So you could do that all with a thumb pick if you're using a thumb pick, or like me, I'm kind of using my thumb and finger. So when we're at the 12th and 10th and 9th and 11th, he's doing that pretty wild. And then he starts to straighten it out. And what I mean by straighten it out is just by doing one motion. And then we're down to our 3rd fret. So third fret, first string, and then we've got our bass walk down. To our D7. So it's going to be 3, 2, pause, 2, 1, to our D7. So that's all happening on that 4th string. And with this D7 here, we've got our thumb on the bass. And there's really no comfortable way to work around that thumb on the bass, so just gonna have to work at that to get comfortable by wrapping that thumb around on that 2nd fret of the 6th string. And then he's gonna start singing with G, Walter. So now we're at our G chord, and even though we're playing chords and really kind of pinching, he's still keeping a very heavy, steady bass. So with that thumb, we're pretty much going to be pulsing on strings 6 and 5, and if you reach that 4th, that's okay too, because keep in mind, again, just like all the songs, we are muting the strings slightly with the palm of our hand. So, but if you listen to it, you kind of get lost in the sensitiveness of the sound of the song, and you kind of forget the fact that he is keeping this very heavy, steady bass. So he's got his G, I falter to the station, G7, with suitcase in my hand. And there he's just sliding his fingers up. To a C, well, I falter to the station, so it's a regular C chord, but adding that 1st string on the 3rd fret. Fall to the station, and again that steady bass, which now it's happening on the 5th and the 4th. With a suitcase in my hand. Back to G, but instead of using the 1st string of the 3rd fret, we're using the 2nd string. To our D7, back to G. Well, it's hard to tell, A7. And when we're at A7, we're just using that 5th string for the bass. D7, when all your love is in vain. Back to G and walk down. And it just starts over again. When the train left the station, with 2 lights on behind. There he comes off of that 1st string. When he's in his G7, he's going to come off and back. And that's the 3rd line of the verse. Where the train left the station, 2 lights on behind. D7, back to G. Where the red light was my blues. A7, D7, and the red light was my mind. Let's pretend this is the end. All my love in vain. So that ending is just like you would for an end of verse. But he's going to go 3, 2, 1, open, D7, back to G. And there are slight little variations from verse to verse, but we're going to go through every verse in the split screen and cover those. So let's go to the split screen for Love in Vain Blues. 1, 2, 3, 4. In my hand, follow to the station, suitcase in my hand. It's hard to tell, it's hard to tell, and all your love is in vain. Looked her in the eye. The train moved in the station. I looked her in the eye. When I felt so lonesome, lights on behind, with a train at the station, two lights on behind, where the blue light was my blues, the red light was my mind. Last time through. Hour drive. Oh man, was turned over, it's a 36-hour drive. When a man like a prisoner, he's never satisfied. A woman like a dress, a man always ramming through a drawer. Woman like a dress, a man always ramming through his drawers. And to call so many men in every war. From 4 till 8 was a no good bunch in clowns. From 4 till 8 she was a no good bunch of clowns. And I don't do nothing till a good man's reputation down. When I leave this town, I'm gonna bid you farewell. When I leave this town, I'll bid you farewell. When I turn again, you'll have a great long story to tell. All right, that was From 4 Till Late, and we are in C position now, and we're going to be doing the intro, which is kind of interesting that he does the same version of the intro for no matter what position he's in. He's basically doing the same intro, and that's true with this song as well, where we're going to start and do that bass run, and we're going to be at the 8th fret, and just like we've done throughout the course of the lesson, we're going to be barring on that 8th fret with strings 2 and 1, on that 4th string and going down. So we got down to the 5th fret, 8 to 5. So we've got C7, F, and then we're going to, from this F, we're just going to be barring the 1st fret, the rest of the strings, 4, 3, 2, and we're leaving our ring finger where we had it for F. So we've got, and then we're going to go, which is pretty interesting. So from this shape, we're going to leave our ring finger where it is on that 3rd fret of the 4th string, and go into this G shape chord here. So our 6th, 4th, and 1st strings are all that 3rd fret, and then that 5th string is 1 fret behind on that 2nd fret. So that's the intro. And then he's going to go right into basically playing what he's singing. So 4th fret on that 4th string, open on the G. Then to the 2nd fret with strings 3 and 1. And to C. From cold till late, three in my hands and cry. So that's just to C, F, melody line is happening on that 2nd string, 3rd fret, back to that 1st fret, 2nd string of the F, and then we'll back into C. And we've got this. So that's frets 5 and 3, 5th fret, 2nd string, 3rd fret, 1st string, and we're going to go down. When we reach that 1st fret on that 2nd string, the 1st string is open. And our C7, which we're going to do a little bit of an alternating bass from 5th to 6th string, but not for much, just then F, which now the melody line's changing a little bit. He's using that 1st string on that 3rd fret rather than that 2nd string on that 3rd fret. And 4th till 8. And then we've got this where we're barring strings 4, 3, and 2 and using that 3rd fret 1st string. So we've got... And real quick, I should mention that with this F, we're using our thumb on the bass. And if you're new to that style of playing, all you're doing is wrapping your thumb around that 6th string on that 1st fret. You wouldn't do a barred version of that because you wouldn't be able to play the melody line. And if this is proving to be a difficult thing to do, I guess the only thing I can say is just keep at it, because it is very important not only for this song but for a host of other songs. But again, going back to the song, so we've got back to our C, to A7. So here we're doing that same thing we did going all the way down to that C7, but we're going to do it just to the 5th and 3rd, 4th and 2nd. Then we go to our 3rd fret and our 1st string is open. To A7, to D7, to G, G7, back to C. And then we've got that turnaround that we did for the intro of the song. And that's really the whole song. When he gets into the 2nd verse, he's going to change things up a little bit. By adding that. So he's going to do the same intro to the verse. But instead of playing the F chord and melody, he's going to go from the 2nd fret with strings 3 and 1 up to the 5th, up to the 7th, back to the 5th, back to the 2nd, and to the C. So from cold till late was an old good bunch and clowns. But everything else is the same. Pretending this is the end. G7 to C7, and we're going to our G, and then up to basically repeating the intro. And what that is 8th, 7, 6, sliding on the 5th string up to that 7th fret, and walking down the strings in this A7 chord shape at the 5th fret, adding that first string on the 6th fret. So that is from 4 till 8, and each verse has some little bit of variations to it, and we'll go through the entire song verse by verse in the split screen. 1, 2, 3, 4. Trying to dry my blues away. Well, drinking malt milk, trying to dry my blues away. And just welcome to my loving as the flower blooms in May. Well, give me one more drink and hug your daddy one more time. Well, just pour me one drink and hug your daddy one more time. Well, take all the milk, mama. Well, that was Malted Milk, and we are in drop D tuning now, and so that means that we're lowering our E string down to D. So there's your E, but now down to D. And Robert Johnson did one other song out of drop D, which is Drunken Hearted Man. Both of them are pretty much the same song. I actually prefer Drunken Hearted Man for the lyric, but I think for the guitar department, Malted Milk is a better arrangement, and it's a little bit more concise. Drunken Hearted Man gets a little wild in spots, and there's some areas that maybe might be mistakes. I don't want to say they're mistakes, but they might be, and this one is definitely more of a clear, concise arrangement. And even though we're in drop D tuning, we're not really utilizing what drop D tuning can do. And so we're kind of ignoring really all of our bass strings for the most part, with the exception of the intro. And we're doing the typical Robert Johnson intro, which is going to be starting at the 10th fret and going down to the 7th fret. So we've seen this all lesson long. And then he's going to land on that A7. So it's from the 10th, 9th, 8th, 7th to A7. And then he's going to go up to this for his first line of the verse. So that's the 7th fret on the 2nd string, 5th fret on the 1st string. And he's going to just, you could brush with your thumb, which I'm not using a thumb pick for this song, and I didn't use a thumb pick from 4 till late. Everything else I was using a thumb pick. But this song, for me, works really well without a thumb pick, because if you listen to what he's doing, it's not as pronounced of a sound as a thumb pick would produce, whether that's the recording or maybe he just played it a little bit lighter or in what. But for me, I thought it fit better to use a bare thumb. And then you can either brush down or you can pluck or pinch. And then the way that's going to work, well, give me one more drink. So he's only on this position for 1, 2, and then we're going to switch to this position here, which is going to be the 5th fret for strings 3 and 1. And then the 2nd string is going to be on the 3rd fret. And again, I'm kind of doing that same kind of pinch pluck that I was just doing, but now I'm grabbing all 3 strings. So it goes. And what that is we're going to be barring strings 1 and 2 and at the 3rd fret and the 4th fret of the 3rd string, and he's going to go. So we're leading into that 4th fret from the 2nd fret. And then walking down from 5th to 3rd, 4th to 2nd, or sorry, 7th to 5th, 6th to 4th, 5th to 3rd, and then landing on that 3rd fret of that 2nd string. And then back to the shape. And then back, well, drinking malted milk, keeps rushing through my head. And then he's got this kind of Lonnie Johnson lick, which this song is very Lonnie Johnson influenced. And what that is you're going to be at your 2nd string, 5th fret, and just bending up to the 4th fret of the 3rd string. And then landing on that 2nd string, 3rd fret. He doesn't do the vibrato that Lonnie Johnson does. It's actually pretty straight. So Lonnie Johnson definitely does a lot of vibrato, but Robert Johnson's version of that is pretty light vibrato. Then we got this section, which is very interesting because what we're doing basically with fingers 1 and 2, we're making a D chord that certainly does not look like a D chord. You know, that would be a traditional D chord. But we're barring strings 3, 2, and 1 with our at the 2nd fret, using our middle finger for that 2nd string. And then we're going to use our pinky to hit the 5th fret and our ring finger to play off that bass of the 3rd string. So it's bass, which is very neat. So we've got then walk down to A7, which is just 4, 3, 2 on that 4th string. And then we're going to go to, which is the 3rd and 2nd strings, are fret 4 and fret 3. And we've got this. So we got a D7 shape, because all we're doing here is basically we're taking this chord shape up 1 fret and adding our pinky on the 5th fret and our first finger on the 4th fret along with strings 2. So strings 2 are, or sorry, fret 4 is string 4 and 2, fret 5 is 3 and 1. Walk that down to A7. And that's the first verse. And the second line of the verse, and really all of them, are going to start off the same by going back up to that 7th and 5th fret and back into this position. So they're all going to start the same. Really what makes them different are the little fills that he puts in between. So the second verse is going to start the same. So there you went from 7 to 5 to 10 to 8, back to 7 to 5. And back to our chord shape here. And just continues through for the second line of the verse. And that's really where the drop D comes into play for that second verse. That fill is going to be at revolving around the 3rd fret for that 4th string, that 5th string on the 2nd fret, and then the open 6th string. Back to this position. And now he's changing his ending a little bit. Instead of doing that D7 chord shape to that A7, he's just going to do A7 chord shapes down to A7. So 4th fret and 5th fret, 3rd fret and 4th fret to A7, and then just start all over again. For the 3rd line of the verse, which is the same as that last verse, we got this. That was a little different. He's going to go up to the 7th and 5th frets. A7, and finish it off the same. The last verse, starting like they all do. Must be spooks around my bed. So that went from 7 and 5 down to 3 and 2. 7, 5, 8, 10, back to 7, 5. And now he's going to do this. So we're still doing this like we have, but he's going to add that 5th fret of that 1st string. The ending. So that's just bending up on that 5th fret of that 2nd string. We're talking out my head to that 3rd fret of the 2nd string. And then we're going to go. So that's sliding up to that 7th and 5th fret. And we're going to go 8th fret, 7th fret to the 5th fret. Like that. And then slide all the way up to the 7th fret and do a long A position here with that 5th, or sorry, your pinky on that 10th fret of the 1st string. And that is Malted Milk. Let's hit the split screen. 1, 2, 3, 4. If the day you want me, I cannot down my trail, down my trail. Well, if today was Christmas Eve, today was Christmas Eve, tomorrow was Christmas Day. Well, if today was Christmas Eve, tomorrow was Christmas Day. Well, I take my seat right up, I pass the time away, pass the time away. Well, I sprinkle hot fruit powder around my baby's door. I sprinkle hot fruit powder around my baby's door. I can tell the moon's rising, shading on the trees. Oh, I can tell the leaves are falling, shaking on the trees. Well, I need my sleep right up to keep my company. All right, that was Hellhound on My Trail, and we have left the land of standard tuning, and we are now in cross note tuning, and we're actually in an E minor chord. So we've tuned up rather than going down to open D and D minor. We're up in E minor, which is, I believe, what the recording reflects as well from the original recording. So, how do you get into cross note tuning? Well, what we're going to be doing is our two E's, our sixth and our first, are going to stay the same, but our D is going to come up to those E's. So we've got three E's, 6, 4, and 1 E. Our A is going to come up to B, so our second string B, and our fifth string is going to be now B. And the G stays the same, so you've got E, B, E, G, B, E. If tuning up you feel like it's maybe causing too much stress or tension on your strings, you can, of course, adjust the strings by maybe going down to, if you're using a light gauge string, you should be perfectly fine, but if not, you go down to a custom light gauge string or even down to an extra light gauge string if you feel that's necessary. But that is cross note tuning, and this song is really heavily borrowing from Skip James, but the difference being that Robert Johnson is playing at a quicker tempo, where Skip James's stuff was definitely a slower tempo and more haunting, in my opinion, than this Robert Johnson piece, because Robert is playing at basically playing at a quicker tempo. But a lot of the same ideas are going on. So what we're going to be doing is starting up on the 4th fret, strings 3 and 1, and that second string is going to be on the 3rd fret, and we're going to walk down. So 4, 3, 2 to open. Sorry. That's what it is. When we go down to our 3rd, we're going to add our 3rd fret, 1st string, but it's also going to be open a little bit. So we're going to go same thing to open. What I like to do, and this is something that Booker White did because he played a lot out of cross note tuning as well, is that I'm actually going to be covering that third string pretty much throughout the piece, because if you haven't already, if you strum, you're obviously getting a minor chord. Whereas if you fret that third string at the first fret, you're back into a major, and you may need to adjust it slightly to fit into the chord so it blends in. But that's the intro. So I'm actually going all the way down to my first fret on that third string, even though I'm not playing it. I'm just covering it so it's not ringing out in that intro. Then we've got our walk down, which is 3, 2, 1, and we're using that open first string as well. And that there is going from the second fret to the third fret on that second string, and that first string is open. Our sixth string is going to be holding down the 4 on the bass there, and we're just not really doing anything other than just kind of keeping our beat with that thumb. And I'm muting the string with the palm of my hand so it's not getting a full note. It's more of a rhythmic thing than a note. And then we're going to go up. Just like we were doing an E-blues type of thing, we're going to be going up to the 7th and 8th fret. So 7th fret with that first string, 8th fret with that second string, and he's going to sing over that. Gotta keep moving, gotta keep moving. So that's 7th and 8th, 5th and 6th, 2nd and 3rd. Back up to the 5th and 6th. And then open 2nd and open 1st, which is just following basically what the melody line would be. You gotta keep moving, you gotta keep moving. Who's falling down like hell? And then walk down. I gotta keep moving. Second line of the verse, you're gonna be at the 3rd fret with that second string. Bend it up a little bit, open 1st, to that first string of the 3rd. Gotta keep moving. Who's falling down like hell? So there, we're starting at the 5th fret on that 2nd string. The first string is open, down to the 3rd, back to just the open E's there. And the walk down, which he does twice. Now we're going to slide up to the 7th fret on that 6th string and hit that 5th string as well. So you got 2 B's going on. And back to our 2nd and 3rd fret with this shape here. So and that's the 3rd line of the verse. You gotta keep moving, held on my trail. My trail, repeating. Second line of the verse is pretty much the same. Not the second line of the verse, the second verse. Walk down. No, instead of going to that 2nd string, he's going to go to the 5th string. So the first verse, he's going to go to the 2nd string and down. Second verse, he's going to do the same thing, but he's going to use his 5th string. So that's his 5, 4, 3, open, and then we do that walk down. Up to the 7th fret. Hell no, my trail. The 3rd verse is going to start up at that 5th fret of that 5th string and sprinkled high powder all around my baby's door. So walk down by my baby's door. Well, I sprinkled high food powder all around my baby's door. So again, just going back up to that 5th fret of that 5th string, back down, and walk down. 7th fret keeps me from rambling. Anywhere I go, anywhere I go. The last verse is going to be like the first. So again, that's 7 and 8 down to 5 and 6. And then he's going to stop there because he's going to go, I can hear the wind is howling, he's shaking on the trees. And then he's on that 5th fret with that 2nd string, and he does that eerie, which really is you're bending up, and then if you just kind of give it a good little shake. So it's not a very finessed vibrato, it's more of just kind of just shaking. Kind of a nervous sound to it. And then just goes back into what you would typically find. So the second line of the verse is he's going to start it out the same as the rest. Go up to the 5th fret. So it's 5, 4, 3, and that what I'm doing there with my thumb pick is I'm just doing a down stroke. So I'm hitting strings 2 and 1. So it's very up to the 7th fret. Anywhere I go, and this is the end. And that's the ending. So he's just ending on that 2nd and doing back and forth from the 2nd to the 3rd fret of that 2nd string with that 1st string open. And that is Hellhound on My Trail. So let's go to the split screen and go through it together. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, that brings us to a close here for DVD 1, and we covered a tremendous amount of territory, really working through every aspect of Robert's playing out of standard tuning and just scratching the surface of open tunings with that cross-note tuning song of Hellhound on My Trail. DVD 2 is going to go further into the open tuning songs, and the majority of those are with a slide. If you have any questions or comments about any of the songs that we've worked through in the lesson, please feel free to get in touch with me through guitarvideos.com, which is the website for Stefan Grossman's Guitar Workshop. There's also a guitar forum based from that site called The Woodshed, and if you post any questions or comments there, I will be sure to see them and answer them as best I can. If you're interested in more lessons, for me, really, Robert Johnson's songs out of standard tuning really reflect more of an urban style rather than a country style. You know, heavily influenced by people like Lonnie Johnson, Blind Blake, and Scrapper Blackwell, as well as quite a few piano players. If you're interested in more of that kind of sound, there is lessons on Lonnie Johnson and Blind Blake located at guitarvideos.com, well worth looking into. If you're looking for something more in the Delta or traditional Delta style sound out of standard tuning, I did a lesson called Delta Blues Guitar from Dockery Plantation, which covered songs by Son House, Tommy Johnson, Willie Brown, and Charlie Patton. And pretty much the vast majority of that lesson is done out of standard tuning, and that will give you a pretty good footing for more of a Delta style sound out of standard tuning. I think that that really brings us to a close for the DVD, and to close out the lesson, we're going to take a look at Johnny Shines and his version of Kind-Hearted Woman. Johnny Shines, of course, traveled with Robert Johnson, and this is a really, really fantastic performance of him playing Kind-Hearted Woman. So enjoy watching this footage of Johnny Shines, and take care.
I got a kind-hearted woman. She'll do anything that's worth for me. I got a kind-hearted woman. She'll do anything that's worth for me. I really love a woman, 'cause she gives my poor heart ease. I love my baby, but my baby don't love me. I love my baby, well, my baby don't love me. I really like a woman, 'cause she is my liberty. Well, it ain't but the one thing, baby, make your daddy think. When I think, pretty baby, I begin to drink. Woo-hoo. Woo-hoo, sing. And it breaks my heart when you call me the so-and-so name. I got a kind-hearted woman, she's done as evil all the time. I got a kind-hearted woman. She studies evil all the time. Well, you'd might as well to kill me, baby, as to have it on your mind.
Anything in this world for me. But them evil-hearted women will not